If you're running a recruitment or executive search business, you're going to love this video because I'm going to talk you through everything, the entire journey for how I transformed what was my business. I was an independent, solo, glorified freelance recruiter to a business owner where the business operated without me, earned way more, and I worked way less. So let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to talk you through absolutely everything that I did using automation and remote employees as well. Here we go. I'm going to be talking you through absolutely everything that I did in my recruitment agency to make it predictable, scalable, profitable, all using simple automation and one remote working employee that earned back my free time and took me from glorified freelance recruiter all the way up to business owner. I'll be talking you through who I can help, who I can't help, where it all applies, everything in between in terms of the growth of the business and even the headcount and the structure, like literally everything. So stay tuned. Here we go. So to begin with, you're typically going to be at this particular position here. So I'm just going to describe all of them so that you're fully aware. Now, when you consider this position here, this is somebody who's a beginner. You're just getting going. You're not making that much money. Maybe you're getting a few placements. You feel a bit lost, feel a bit unsure. You're unsure about the niche that you've picked and you're questioning a few things, struggling to get good clients. Like this is like the earlier stages of the journey and it is pretty tough. You've got to put in the work and eventually you'll make your way over here. You'll start to get consistency with your clients. You'll begin to get regular job flow, you'll begin to increase your fees, and ultimately you're going to start earning more. And at this stage, you might consider hiring a VA or a freelance employee of some kind, and maybe even adopt some tools and automations and build out a CRM. And the problem that you have here is you are going to be earning really well. However, proportionate to the amount of money that you earn compared to being here and the amount of free time that you have, it's only marginally more. And even then, considering the amount of free time that you have, the only reason why you have a little bit more free time isn't because you have a business that operates without you. It's because you have enough cash flow to justify taking some time off. So you take 2, 3, even 4 weeks off and your billings will come down. But because you've got so much cash flow, you can afford to have that little bit of a drop. But that remains a consistent cycle over and over again. And the most common thing that I hear when people are in this position is, I'm really busy. When someone says to me, I'm really busy, I know they're exactly here. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be talking about this journey up here to go from freelance recruiter to business owner, where you earn way more and work way less. And the business is more structured, you have way more leverage, you have happy clients, you have a happy team, you have happy candidates, and ultimately it makes you a happy entrepreneur. So this journey is the one that I'm going to be focusing on in this video. And if you're here, then I'm going to point you in the direction of a few things that are going to be supportive, but for the purpose of this video, it's literally from here all the way up to here. And these particular numbers that I've described, I mean, they're round numbers just for the sake of averages, considering this description up here. However, I've spoken to plenty of recruiters who are breaking the barriers on these limits, like some even in the 40, even 100K a month, but they're still stuck around here because they can't figure out how to get up to here. And that's what I'm going to be talking through. So just a quick little bit about me. My name's Mohammed. I run Responsum. I'm the co-owner, and we are London's most recommended building services recruiters. I invest heavily in my own business education. I love driving cars. I like traveling. I spend a lot of time with my family. My religion plays a really important part in my life. And one thing that's really important is this little man here. He has special needs, and that accounts for a massive driver for some of the things that I get up to. So enough about me. Let's dive in. When it comes to recruitment, this is what the typical recruitment process looks like. And this applies regardless of what kind of business model you operate. So it doesn't matter whether you operate a contingent model, retained model, you're working on a temp desk. This is the same process that you're following, and that is that you have cold clients and candidates, and these are people that you've just identified either on job boards or on LinkedIn, and you need to make contact with them so that they become engaged with you. And when they become engaged with you, eventually they go through this blue line, which is known as the nurturing process, where eventually they become passive and then they become active. And same thing for your clients who eventually become active. And this little block here, this is where all the fun happens. Everything relating to recruitment happens here. Because if you've got active clients and you've got active candidates who you're working with, and you're literally taking the vacancy, sending CVs, booking interviews, and then getting placements done, like this is the best part. This is recruitment. And for all the activities that exist within this black and green area, you've got to be good at it. Like, I can't really help you too much if you're struggling in this area. I'm going to point you in the direction anyway, but you have to be really good at this part. And I'm going to be talking through where automations and a VA will apply here. But ultimately, irrespective of what kind of recruitment model you operate, you're always going to be following this particular process. So to dive in a little bit more, who I can help, if you're already billing 5 to 10K a month or more, you've already got your dedicated and focused niche, you're already good at recruiting, meaning that you're capable of doing 2 or 4 placements or more a month. You can do a lot more, but you're unsure about the next steps. You've never grown a business without the headache that comes with it. And believe you me, there is plenty of headache that comes with it. You operate a contingent or a retained business model, and you feel like your business has become a self-made prison. And that's a worst case scenario where you're always battling to keep your billings high with no time to rest, fearful of your billings dropping, or constantly in that battle of should you find more clients or more candidates. And it's worth noting as well, who I can't help. If you don't understand recruitment, you have little to no money to invest in your business, you're either lazy or you don't want to do the work, or you think that this can happen all by itself automatically. You're consistently looking for new tools, new tricks, new ways to grow your business. You don't have a focused niche. You don't even believe that it's possible to make $5,000 a month or more, or you don't think any of it is possible in terms of growing a business, selling a business, or operating it with 4 hours a week or less. So to help you along the way, if you need some help and resource from a recruitment perspective, I've got 2 places. One is that I have a full free course on YouTube. Go on my channel and just search for it. It's 5 hours long. It contains absolutely everything in terms of the knowledge, the templates and the sequences, and everything that I knew and I had in terms of resources to help get my recruitment business past 6 figures a year. And if that's not enough, then I would direct you towards Steve Finkel, who is an author of several books, an absolute veteran in recruitment, and he has some absolute gold in his resources. So go and check out his books. And if it's from a belief or a business perspective, then these are some of the books that inspired me. In particular, The 4-Hour Work Week. I think I read that book back to back somewhere between 15 and 20 times the first time I came across it. Like I thought I was hallucinating at one point, but yeah, it's real. Everything in there is absolutely possible, and that's what I've applied into my recruitment agency. And I'd say it provided a humongous driver and direction for how I was going to grow my business, plus all of these other books that you can consider. And considering the growth of the business, we did it without using job boards, without having the need to set up a podcast, without investing in crazy amounts of marketing, without switching up the recruitment model, without hiring a non-executive director, all using lead gen agencies, or any expensive marketing tools, or any complex technology, and didn't even need to hire recruiters until more recently where we started to grow, but I'll save that for a moment later. And I want to be clear on what this is not. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a way to make your business grow without you doing any work. It's not a course. You won't be restricted to group coaching. There's proper support provided here. And this is not super technical where it's going to take you 8 weeks to get past the first step. Neither is it rigid, because everything is customized to your business, your niche, and your particular focus. So let's keep going. Keeping in mind that you might have already tried a few things. Maybe you've hired a VA, you've tried using some automation, maybe you've got someone contacting leads, maybe you've tried sending a load more emails, you're considering a non-exec director, you may be considering setting up a podcast, or you might have already bought a course and you just didn't get the result, neither did you get the level of support that you were expecting or this level of support that you needed. Or you're considering, or even you've tried switching recruitment models. Like you're already operating contingent, so now you're thinking about retained, and you're operating retained and you're thinking about contingent. Or you're considering any of these things mentioned here. Not to mention the amount of time and money that you might be spending researching what is going to work. But here's the thing, you don't have to go through all of that process because I've already done it for you. I considered every single one of these things, and it wasn't until I actually accepted myself that I just didn't know how to grow a business the way that I wanted it to, where it served me and my life and my family without it taking up every single hour of the waking day. It was only at the moment where I accepted it, I was able to change. So I'm going to talk you through exactly how I would do it again if I had to start again, and what you could do in the course of the next 6 months, including every single function within recruitment, the growth plan, the structure, absolutely everything. And there's a reason why I said function, and that's because not everything in recruitment can be automated or completely handed off to AI. It's a blend of all of them, so I'm going to refer to it as functions time to time. So let's go. So revisiting the recruitment process, we have clients, candidates, who you are constantly trying to move into this engaged state. And this is where they're talking to you. You've got two-way communication. And that just means you could be communicating with them on LinkedIn, on WhatsApp, like whatever messaging platforms you might be using, or they're on your database, or at least you've had a conversation. And as long as you've got that in place, they are engaged. Now, you may or may not have terms in place, but you're still building a relationship. And you can work on those terms, especially when it gets to the point where they're active and they're looking for a job. But ultimately, this is the place where the fun really happens, because here you can make introductions without any competition. If you've got passive candidates and passive clients, you can set up interviews, get deals done and placements done without having any competition from any other recruiter. And this is where everybody wants to exist, because it's the smoothest operating element of the business. Once it gets here, it becomes really busy. And because this part becomes really busy, what usually happens is that you haven't had enough time to spend up here in this area, which is generating more clients and more candidates. And because of that, when you do conclude a placement, 2 or even 5 or 10, depending on how talented you are, although it's a really happy moment getting a placement over the line, the daunting thing that comes upon you immediately after closing a placement is now your lack of pipeline in this area. And that's an ongoing battle that will always exist within recruitment companies, except we've been able to figure out a way to solve it. So I'll be talking you through that. So to do that, I'm going to focus on the first part. So ignoring the bottom part of this document, just looking at this area here. Now, this is the first part of the recruitment process. And certainly if anybody's a beginner, every single client and candidate starts in this particular place. And that is that you have recognized them or you found them either on job boards or on LinkedIn. And when you consider how you're going to get them into the engaged status, what you're doing is you're moving them from cold to engaged. This is your lead conversion system, funnel, whatever you might want to call it, on your process. And typically on the candidate side, you might be using job boards, LinkedIn Recruiter, you've got a resourcer, or you're relying on referrals. And on the client side, you're using job boards, maybe you're following live leads, maybe you've got a VA in place, some basic automations, you're cold calling, cold emailing, and the list goes on. And here's the thing, this part of the process, like getting candidates and clients to talk to you, just talk to you for the first time, is the biggest investment area in any business, because this is the most expensive part and it's the bit that actually costs the most. Like, look at these things up here, LinkedIn Recruiter, job boards, and the amount of time spent cold calling and cold emailing is a humongous resource that is spent up here. And it's typically the go-to places. Like, these are the go-to places that recruiters will turn to so that they can generate more clients and candidates. And the same goes for when you're talking to lead generation agencies, because when you're talking to lead gen agencies, what they're effectively doing is they're pitching you this conversion. Like, how quickly can we get a client from here to engage or a candidate from here to engaged? Keeping in mind, you can't force a candidate to start looking for a job, neither can you force a client or a hiring manager to start hiring, because this part of the process takes time, unless you get in contact with a client when they're advertising a job, in which case you've skipped this entire nurturing process. You haven't had the time to build a relationship, and what you have is a transaction-based relationship where ultimately they've got no reason to come back to you again. You're just another recruiter who's going to fill one of their jobs, and that's the end of it. So if you are considering a lead generation agency, or you're considering investing in marketing, and you're considering all the different avenues that you can generate a lead, you need to qualify, what is a lead? Is it a cold candidate? Is it an engaged candidate? Is it a passive candidate? Is it an active candidate? And the same rule goes for clients. So you might hear these lead generation agencies or lead generation service builders where they might say, we can get you 3 to 5 candidates or client leads every single week or every single month, however they pitch it. And it's worth clarifying, like, what are you talking about? Like, what stage are we talking about when it comes to generating a lead? Because this is a cold lead, this is an engaged lead, this is a passive lead, and this is an active one. Like, they're all completely different things, and they mean completely different things when you consider when you start engaging with them. And you have to also accept that if a candidate does come through, like the first time you're speaking to them, they are already active, and the same rule applies for a client. The problem that you have is there's another recruiter who has already been through this entire journey, who has relationship and has trust with them, and the only reason why the client is advertising a job is because they haven't already been able to fill it from either their own network, their existing network, and even the existing recruiters that they have. So the client that you have here, they're just looking to get their job filled. They're not interested in engaging in a relationship, anything long term. And the same rule applies for a client. And when they're at this stage, everyone's in panic state. And I don't mean literally panic state. All that means is that the competition is fierce. at this stage. You're dealing with every single other recruitment company that operates in your niche, and that's why you constantly might run into the problem that, oh, the hiring manager has already seen the CV. Not to mention that candidates and clients can drop off at any point, meaning that if a candidate, you've nurtured them all the way through to here and they become active, they could change their mind and say, you know what, I don't want to change jobs. Now what? They leave the process. And the same thing for clients as well. And given these functions that I've described here, functions again, meaning that automation can be applied here, a lead conversion system, a relationship maintenance and nurture system, and a client and candidate conversion system, all of these systems are important. However, for the majority of recruiters, this is where they turn to. They look at this top level and not consider any of this function here, because all of these things are required to get passive and exclusive clients and candidates. So now, considering that as part of the entire recruitment process, and I've already described, like when you're here and you're really busy, then ultimately what happens is that you pay less attention up here, because like, why not? Like, we're going to focus more on getting placements at the end of the day, and we want to do this as quickly and fast as we possibly can. So because the recruiter, especially if you're a 360 or if you're solo, then you pay less attention up here because you want to get the deal done. At the end of the day, the placement is what's going to bring you the money, not you contacting clients and candidates. But you still need this consistent flow to keep coming. Otherwise, the moment you've done a placement, this entire section becomes dry, and that's why I have in your pipeline. So you might feel like you've got this completely dialed in. You might feel confident about it. Like, yeah, I understand the system. Like, we have this in place. Maybe you have, or you haven't gotten standard operating procedure or a documentation or any kind of automation in place. Regardless of that, let me just give you some examples, and I'll give you some symptoms that would indicate that not everything is fully dialed in. And then I'm going to show you another way and also give you where the automations can be applied. So if you have the experience where the client has already seen the CV of the candidate that you've been representing and you're going to send across, the client fills the job really fast. There's candidates that you know who are on your CRM and they end up taking jobs without you. There's candidates who you've previously placed who have taken jobs without even talking to you. You've got clients who have filled jobs with other recruiters without you even knowing that they were hiring, and nobody comes forward to you with any referrals, or very little anyway, or you've got a really dry pipeline which gets significantly worse after you've done a few placements, and your clients and your candidates never call you asking for advice. And more importantly, you don't see year-on-year improvement in billings for you or your team. And when you're considering all of these things, there's a problem here. And I'm going to show it here. It is that there's a lack of automations and systems in place in some of the other areas, meaning that considering drop-offs, passive candidates can go back to engaged, active can go back to engaged, people who are literally in the process of having interviews, they can drop off and say, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to move on. And even down here, if you're not investing or you don't have a process of re-engaging your clients and candidates, then you're going to have candidates and clients who follow through this entire process. Maybe you end up with a load of competition, but you still manage to get them a job and you get them placed and you get paid. Well done to you, credit to you. But when it comes to here, there's no real re-engagement process and everything drops off. So what's really happening is they come through this process and then they go back to cold. And considering the most expensive part of recruitment, which is converting cold leads into engaged leads, that includes clients and candidates, you're now having to reinvest a lot of money up here, and time and energy and resources for your entire team, just to get these people who you probably have already placed just to start talking to you again because you've lost the relationship. So if there's no way that you have to re-engage this entire candidate and client pool, then you've always got clients that are slipping through the nets and you've always got candidates who are slipping through the net. So where can automation, VA, and everything else that I've mentioned support the entire business? Well, it's every single dotted line and every single arrow that you can see, including the blue nurturing processes and including some of the parts within the recruitment process. Because when you blend all of it together, you maintain the relationship, you create a closed loop for your clients and candidates so that you never lose contact with them. Arguably, if you place a candidate, they should be coming back to you again. And a client, if you've made a placement with them, they should be so happy and over the moon that they're going to come back to you over and over again. And if that's not happening, then there's a problem here, and possibly one of these arrows or one of these functions or systems or automations is not in place in your business. So just to dive in a little bit more in terms of how it all comes together, well, it costs just as much as a LinkedIn recruiter license and arguably gives you more ROI. It takes 2 to 3 hours to implement and build all of these functions. over a course of a few months, and it works on both new and existing clients. And considering the older way of investing purely in cold clients and candidates to bring them into your CRM and your engagement pool, then that's the most expensive and time consuming part of the journey. The rest of it becomes way more effective, way more profitable, and way more scalable. And this here represents part one of what it's like working with me. All of these systems and automations and a blend of VA, all of them get applied in this particular part of the process, and that's what allows you to grow your business. And that's part one complete. Part two is how do we scale this? And to do that, I've got these diagrams which are going to represent what it's like growing a recruitment business. So the typical story within recruitment looks something like this. There's a recruiter, independent, probably started working for somebody else at some point, and then decided to start their own business. They're somewhere around here, meaning 100, 150K. Yeah, these are just average numbers. Like you might be more talented doing more, or you might be slightly under, but I'm just giving round numbers for the sake of it. And considering all of these responsibilities, like you're going to be taking care of invoicing, you're going to take care of marketing, you're going to take care of all the recruitment work, all the phone calls, all the emails, and everything is feeding straight into this little head here who probably has a bit of a headache. And you're working 40 to 60 hours a week, 6-figure income. Not bad going, like well done to you. You've made 6 figures, you're working a lot of hours, and you're taking up a lot of responsibilities. And eventually, if you haven't already tried this, you might think, you know what, I'm going to grow this business. So you move over into this position and you hire a few recruiters, and you maybe end up with one that's slightly underperforming, one that's doing okay, and one that's high performing. And when you're in this circumstance, you've still got all of these responsibilities. You've got all these 360 recruiters with their own problems, and they're reporting into you. And because the amount of time that you have to spend managing and maintaining these people, you don't have enough time to maintain your billings. So your billings from 100 to 150K, they drop because now you're managing all of these people. And when you're managing all of these people, you have to consider their thoughts and feelings. Like, this person is underperforming and is probably giving you the most amount of grief. This person is doing okay, but if it was that person on their own, you probably think this is not worth it. And then this one is thinking, you know what? I'm making more money than my boss. Why the heck am I going to go work for this person? And then they leave and go into this. And this loop plays itself over and over again in recruitment, where a really high performing biller will go and set up their own company, then they'll try to grow a team, and then they'll get fed up because their highest performer will leave, and they will just repeat this process over and over again. Like, it might be relatable because I know plenty of people who've been through that story, and I'm laughing about it because I went through the same journey as well. However, there is a slightly better way, which is more profitable and more scalable, which actually looks like this. So when you structure it properly, what that means is that you will end up in a position where the only responsibilities that you have are the recruitment responsibilities. And considering one VA and basic automations, you can remove all of the other responsibilities away and hand them off to these people and the system. And it leaves you only to qualify candidates, send CVs, book in interviews, and ultimately do placements. And when you're in that position and you don't have any other responsibilities, and still you have a consistent flow of clients and candidates, then ultimately this becomes way more scalable, way more predictable, and way more profitable, to the point that you can start regularly taking time off, where you know exactly how much you need to work to earn the amount of money that you have, considering a higher point of leverage. So now if you want to maintain your billings, 25 to 30 hours a week will do the same amount of billings as what you would do when you were here. However, if you want to do more and you really want to go for it, then yeah, you've got a bigger point of leverage where you can do way more in terms of income based on a normal 40-hour work week. However, when you want to grow, then you consider this position. And all it means is that this recruiter has traded places with you. So you are here with all of these functions and systems in place that were taking care of the bulk of the client and candidate work, and you're only dealing with the recruitment activities. To present that opportunity to a recruiter is a fantastic opportunity. Like, they're not going to be burnt out, they're not going to be working overtime, they're going to be really high performing because they're going to love their job, and at the same time they're going to earn really well because they're billing high numbers, and they're going to perform really well because they're ultimately going to be happy in the job. Like, they've got a luxury position here, especially if all the candidate and client generation is taken care of, including including the nurturing system, and all they're having to deal with is very warm, passive and active clients and candidates who are ready to hire, ready to make moves, and they're just making placements over and over again. And when you give them that opportunity, you step out and you still have plenty of profit left in the business to pay yourself well and work significantly fewer hours. Now, that's just the beginning. That's what you want to get to immediately. If you want to continue scaling, it looks like this. You duplicate the entire model as many times as you possibly want. And you could be here as the person taking care of everything with a good income, or you can move out and pay somebody else to be maybe a billing manager or even a PA, and you continue to grow the team. And this looks like a reasonably good department. I mean, we're basically somewhere between here and this model, and this is where we're aiming for, which is considerably more growth in the entire business. So that's everything. That's exactly how I grew my business, all the different areas that are focused on, everywhere where automation and basic automation and one VA can change and shape the entire business and trajectory of your business when it comes to building it in a way that is more predictable, scalable, and profitable. And I just want to point this out because these are things that came to my mind as well. If you are serious about doing this, then these are some of the things that you might be doubtful about, but actually they act as limiting beliefs. Like, these are just doubts that you have in your own mind. Like, if you're trying to figure out when is the right time, you're afraid of investing in your own business, you don't have the confidence to grow in your business, you're not sure if I can actually help you in terms of the niche and geographic location that you focus in, or maybe you've previously been burnt and maybe you've got a bad taste because somebody else sold you a course and it wasn't quite what you expected, or it didn't offer the level of support, or maybe you just lack the confidence in yourself. These limiting beliefs will be shattered once you get going. And I can give you an example of somebody who it has been, and there will be more, and there'll be a link to that video below. But all of these things and these problems are resolved by moving forward and taking the next step. But hold on a second, encouraging you to do that just yet. Because if you can, and you do get past those limiting beliefs, then ultimately you're going to be in a position that looks something like this. And this is just a bit of a description of some of the benefits that happen once you build a business with proper systems, automations, literally one VA who can take care of all the work. You work significantly fewer hours. Your inbox is tidy. The first thing when you wake up in the morning and you check your email inbox, everything is well organized and all the junk has been cleared and all the bad messages have been moved out, all into the relevant folders. Your candidate campaigns are ready to launch the moment you get in. Every new connection on LinkedIn is automatically imported into your CRM across your entire team, so you never lose data or track of anybody who comes through your team. Your clients and candidates are consistently being re-engaged, so you never lose contact with them, including the new ones or the existing ones. And your candidates and your clients, they begin to like you and trust you, and they respect you for your advice, and they're prepared to pay you a little bit more. And they don't just see you as just another recruiter trying to squeeze out a fee. And now they begin to see you as an expert. And maybe, and it's certainly true for me, you get to a point where you haven't had to chase an invoice in several years because the systems and the automations and the VA take care of everything. And ultimately, you get to a position where you become a market leader where no client or candidate can go without knowing who you are. So if that's the kind of business that you want, one that is predictable, one that is scalable, one that can grow without you, then from here on, the way that I see it, you've got two options. You can ignore everything that I've said. Don't have to invest in yourself. You can try and figure it out on your own. And in the short term, you'll be quite happy because you wouldn't have spent any money. And I hate to say it, it's going to affect your ego a little bit. And you can protect your ego and you can keep it to a point. And in the short term, you will be happy that your ego is safe and the cash that you have in the bank is safe. But in the long term, you're going to be unhappy because you still wouldn't have built the business, the one that you want, because if you could have figured it out on your own or you wanted to do it on your own, then you wouldn't be this far along the video and you wouldn't be watching this and you would have already done the business and you wouldn't need this kind of support. However, if you would like to explore the option, and this is option 2, you could book in a call with me. It's free. It's not a sales call. If you need convincing about whether this works or this model works or if this is actually a thing that even works really well, then I've done it myself. There's other people that I'm supporting. I'm not going to try and convince you that it works. You've got to be convinced yourself. Like, go and watch this video again. Go and check out my other videos on my channel. Check me out on my other socials and maybe check out some of the testimonials. When you consider all of that, and then you decide to take the next step, you can have that phone call with me. And yes, at the beginning, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to feel like your ego's been hit, and you're going to lose a little bit of money, but that money isn't completely lost forever. It goes down as an investment, because that investment is going to pay you back in your business, because then you're going to be able to scale it. And in the long term, you will be happy when your business looks something like this, and you will be happy when it's predictable, profitable, and you will be happy when all your clients and candidates keep coming back to you over and over again, because everything is so well structured and organized. And you will be happy when you transition from being what is a freelance recruiter all the way up to business owner, where you can earn way more and work way less. So I look forward to seeing you on a call pretty soon.